Hey guys, Josh here from Sportitude Running, and it is shoe review time, and we're going to be talking all things Brooks Launch 8. This shoe here has just landed in the front half of 2021 here in Australia, and pretty true to the whole Launch franchise, not a lot has changed with regards to the consumer that should be considering this shoe. However, Brooks have gone back to the drawing board with their engineering and tinkered with the outsole, the midsole, and the upper. And in today's review, we're going to get to all of those changes from comparison to the Launch 7, look at the changes to the Launch 8, talk about the foot type that could be considering this running shoe, and who knows, give you some information at home that might just add this shoe to your running rotation. So, without further ado, let's get stuck in. Okay guys, first thing first, let's talk about the foot type that could be considering this shoe through here. Now, it is a neutral running shoe, meaning the density of foam is the same on the lateral side as it is the medial side. So Brooks haven't introduced any guardrail support or changes with the density of foam on the medial side, so targeting a neutral foot type. Now, before we go any further, I do want to call out one important piece of information. Brooks are also launching, well, pun intended, the Brooks Launch GTS. Now that shoe is replacing the Brooks Ravenna. So there is a link to this video below with regards to the full review on the Launch GTS. And in that review, we do talk about the comparisons from this shoe to that. So this shoe review today is all about Launch 8 and Launch 7 and the comparison differences between the two through there. So I just thought I'd point that out before we go any further. So again, talking about the foot type, we're talking about a neutral runner. So in my videos gone by in the past, a neutral foot in a static position will look something pretty similar to this. So when you put a neutral foot on the ground, you can see there's a bit of real estate between the arch and the ground. And for that runner that makes contact on heel, comes through to mid starts, most of the pressure is either through the central part of their foot, or there might be a tendency to underpronate or supinate slightly, so thus the pressure will just transfer to the outside of the foot as they come through and toe off at the end of their gait cycle. And again, there are some runners that have a pretty similar static position to this, which is slightly more collapsed in the arch area. However, when we watch and view them running in their gait, they don't tend to rotate too much towards the medial side. They will still stay true to the center of their foot and toe off second and third metatarsal, but they might have a static position that looks a little bit like this. And if you're unsure, it's always good to go into like a store and get fitted. And if you happen to call out to us here at Sportitude Running, we'll help you diagnose what foot type you are as well. That's the foot type that should be considering this running shoe. Now let's get into the engineering changes with this little guy, because I have liked what Brooks have done with the Launch 8 in every aspect, outsole, midsole, and upper. So let's talk all things outsole first. So you can see there's no real difference with regards to the full ground contact concept. So you've got rubber the whole way through the heel, through to mid stance, and through to the toe off piece through here. And having a look at the 8, no different. We've got heel, midfoot, and forefoot rubber. So a nice smooth transition the whole way through the gait cycle. However, because the foam is ever so slightly softer, and we'll get into that in 2 ticks, Brooks have just made the forefoot a little bit more durable. So you can see the little bit of encapsulated rubber through those 2 flex screws through here. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 flex screws for the forefoot, but the middle 2 flex screws here and here, there is a little bit of encapsulated rubber, and it covers a little bit more surface area than what you've got on the Launch 7 through there. So still, they have filled in that little bit of rubber through there. However, if you use this outsole on that midsole, it would be a poor performing shoe. So they had to make the outsole a little bit more functional for the performance of the Launch 8, and that's mainly due to the change in cushioning, which I touched on a minute ago. So Brooks have still used the Bio-Mogo Run or DNA midsole, and that's essentially the same marketed branding on the Launch 7, but I can tell you right now at home, this shoe here runs a lot softer underneath the foot. I found the Launch 7 was a great shoe for those people who like a denser midsole and have that sort of tendency to run with more propulsion, don't want to sink into the foam as much. So this shoe here still had some wins with regards to the running community out there. However, the majority of feedback was, oh, it's a bit harsh underneath the foot. I want something a little bit softer. And obviously Brooks listened, and they went back to the drawing board and executed a very nice light and soft foam underneath the foot through here. The trade-off there is it may last a little bit less, but hey, if it's going to be 50, 60, 70 kilometers less than Launch 7, but you're going to enjoy your mileage in this shoe, I would happily take that sacrifice every day of the week. And while we're talking all things midsole, we have got the same heel to toe drop. So we've got a 10mm drop in the Launch 8, and we had a 10mm drop in the Launch 7 through there. So we'll put the statistics up on the screen with regards to the differences through both shoes. And also coming, or sort of noticeable change in the midsole, I need to point out, is that the forefoot, while this had the same density the whole way through, you certainly notice a pretty dense forefoot feel in the Launch 7. But with the Launch 8, you may say, okay, it's a softer foam. You're going to feel like I'm working harder through that forefoot stage of my gait cycle because the foam's too soft. I can tell you right now that's not the case, purely due to the fact that that gradient, as it drops from your heel to your forefoot, that 10mm drop, you get a really nice effortless toe off with this shoe as well. So I would usually get a bit cautious when we're looking at tempo shoes or interval shoes that are softer, because what is that going to do when I want to run fast and when I want to feel fast and get up on my toes? You certainly feel nice and responsive inside the Launch 8, which is fantastic. Now coming to the upper, other than the midsole, it's probably my favorite change in this shoe. So we're seeing this trend right across the whole industry. Nearly every single brand is dialing in on this. I don't even know if it's got a technical name, but we're just calling it the elf fit, where the outsole, the upper, just kicks out a little bit behind the Achilles. So you don't get that really suffocated feel on the back of your heel through here. However, the heel counter height, or the internal heel counter, which is that plastic piece that sits in the 7 and sits in the 8, is exactly the same height. So you've got the same amount of internal structure in both shoes. However, it's not quite as restrictive on the back of that Achilles, where sometimes when shoes can come in a bit too tight through here, we can get a little bit of unwanted rubbing, really, that friction build up in the back of the Achilles. Now, it can cause a bit of callus, or some people can get real harsh blisters on that vertical lift through here. However, with this little guy, with early days yet, we haven't seen any sort of issues with regards to friction build up at the back of that heel, which is fantastic. And the amount of memory foam on the lining of this on the lining of this heel collar through here is about spot on too. It's just the perfect mixture of foam in regards to comfort, but not overdoing it where you feel like your foot's just being swallowed by the foam. It's just an ideal heel counter. They've really nailed the brief on that little guy. Now, as you're coming through to the midfoot region, this shoe here, there's not too much with regards to overcomplicating the overlayers or anything in this shoe. It is a pretty pure shoe with regards to what they have done. Brooks logo covers quite a sort of decent part of the upper, both the medial and the lateral side. And I'd love to say it strategically offers some form of support, but I don't think it does. It's just obviously placed there for some cosmetic reasons. But as you come through to the forefoot, the upper is nice and breathable, really, really breathable. I found with the 7, I had to run it in a little bit to make this shoe fit and feel up top. So it was due to the fact that the upper was slightly more of a denser material. So it really cut across my forefoot a little bit too much personally. And it took me quite a few kilometers to get that to soften up. From this first run in this shoe, what I found with the Launch 8, it was great in regards to the upper. I didn't feel like I needed to adjust anything with the fit and feel. My favorite socks just slipped in there nicely, which is my feature socks, and I was more than confident with taking this out on the road straight away, and the upper just fitted really, really well, which is fantastic. Okay guys, while we're talking all things upper, we'll just touch on the width through here. Now I don't have my men's sample, that's at home, I'm so sorry, but what we have in the ladies is we've got a standard width only, so B width on offer with the ladies, and we have a D width on offer for the men's through there. So just both standard men's and women's. We did touch on at the start of this review, there is the Launch GTS. Now that shoe does come out in a D width ladies and a 2E on offer for the men's as well. Okay guys, in conclusion, the Brooks Launch 8, in my opinion, is a fantastic update. It's a slightly lighter, softer shoe underneath the foot, and the upper is so dialed in. I really like what this shoe is all about. It's not an overly complicated shoe. I mean, you've got the Hyperion Tempo out there, which has got that super foam from Brooks, which is that nitrogen-infused DNA flash, but you get a really good, reliable performer here, which has got a very nice feel underneath the foot through there. So guys, if you've happened to be a Brooks launch runner previously, let us know in the comments field below what your experiences have been like in this franchise and whether you would be considering the Launch 8. If you've got any questions about the fit and feel function on this shoe, drop it in the comments field below. And if you haven't subscribed to our channel, hit the red button and the bell for all those notifications so you can stay up to date with everything going on in the running shoe game here in Australia and for all over the world for that matter. Until next time, guys, stay safe, happy running, be kind to each other, and we will see you out on the road. Take care.